Ladies and gentlemen, we are finally here. It is officially NBA playoff time. The first round is finally here. Today is Friday, May 21st, and today I'm doing what I am always doing during these playoffs, and that is giving my predictions for these playoffs. And obviously we're going to start with the first round today. I'm super excited for these playoffs. I have no idea why, but the anticipation leading up to it, the build up, the incredible series that we could potentially have this first round and after make me really excited for what could potentially be a really exciting playoff series. And there's a lot of reasons why. We have a lot of great teams in big markets, both LA teams, both New York teams, so that alone is good for the league. But we also have really good small market teams that are also going to be in the mix too, so that's always great too. And because it is May 2021, we are starting to get out of the pandemic a little bit, so fans are back in the arenas, and we're starting to slowly get back to these packed crowds that we all love and we miss so much. So that is also another thing that I personally am very excited about. But yeah, with all of that being said, in this video, like I said, we're going to go over the entire first round and give my predictions. This is going to be for both the East and the Western Conference. Now, obviously, I have to preface it by saying that obviously I'm going to be wrong. These are just predictions. You cannot really say for certain what's going to happen because anything can happen. It's the NBA playoffs. But I'm going to give my predictions, and hopefully I am right. I would love to be right, but I probably won't be. So I ask you not to roast me too hard about all of this. Just, you know, leave it be. This is just giving my personal thoughts and just sharing it out there with you guys. But before I get started, I want to let you guys know that over 90% of the people watching this video are not subscribed. So if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and also turn on your notifications so that you don't miss an upload. And if you enjoy more NBA content like this, I would also greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Alright, so with all of that being said, let's get started with our first round predictions. We'll start with the Eastern Conference and start with the 1 versus 8 matchup, the Sixers and the Wizards. This one is going to be a very interesting series because the Sixers have had a really incredible regular season, even with Embiid missing time for injury. The Wizards, I mean, credit to them for them to turn around their entire season from being at, you know, the bottom of the Eastern Conference to now be an 8th seed. It's incredibly impressive for them, so that's also great. Another small nugget, you know, you have Russell Westbrook and Joel Embiid, who have had a really public beef. I think that's very, you can say. So I'm excited to see how that beef's gonna turn out, because them in a playoff series, you know, maybe we're hyping it up a little too much, but I think there's going to be some drama there. That might be a little bit interesting. But for this series, I do think that Russell Westbrook will get his. I don't see there being any issue with him getting his numbers because he's been doing that all year long. Beal has also looked good, but I am still concerned about his health. You know, he did look good against the Pacers in that play-in game, but in that last regular season game and in that game against Boston, he looked incredibly hobbled and he just did not look good at all. While he looked good against Indiana, I'm hoping that, you know, the gap between the Pacers game and to the first round series, I hope that, you know, he can get healthy and make this series more interesting, but I still am, you know, I'm concerned about his health. And the easy thing with this series is that, you know, Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle are incredible defenders, elite defenders, and they can stop anyone on the perimeter. So I think that Bradley Beal will have a hard time getting his, especially if he's not healthy. And on top of that, there's no answer for Joel Embiid. I mean, who are you going to put on him? Alex Len or, you know, Daniel Gafford, who I love, by the way. I love Daniel Gafford, but I mean, against Joel Embiid, come on, no one can answer for him. Rui Hachimura can try, Alex Len can try, Daniel Gafford can try, but no one's going to be able to do it. So with all that being said, I think the Sixers are going to win this series in 5 games. I do think the Wizards, you know, I think, you know, Beal and Westbrook can have one really good game and they can, you know, steal one from the Sixers, but no, Sixers in 5. The Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. I would be much more excited about this series, but with the way that the Celtics have played this season and on top of the injuries that they've dealt with, this does not look like a fun series at all. The Big Three in Brooklyn have only played 8 games together, so maybe they're not completely used to playing with each other, and that could maybe open up Boston to snag a game or two. But I feel like even if Tatum plays great, which he will, there's just no stopping Brooklyn. I mean, come on. And for Boston, they just have been so defeated. And look, it's not all their fault, but some of it is. You can't control the injuries, you can't control getting COVID, but the Celtics have just seemed so off this season, and even Brad Stevens admitted that they basically have no chance against the Nets, and that, you know, defeatist feeling is just not good for this team. Tatum will still get his, and he'll still play great, so I don't think it's going to be an outright sweep, but I do have the Nets taking care of this series in 5 games. It's going to be a very disappointing ending for the Celtics this season. The Bucks and the Heat. Now this is interesting. We have a rematch of the bubble and a series that was really shocking for a lot of us. The Heat took care of business in 5 games last year, you know, for the Bucks, who for the past 2 years have been the best team in the NBA. You know, it was expected that the Bucks were going to be the favorites in the East last year, but the Heat came in and just defeated them, you know, pretty easily, to be honest. And they've been so disappointing in the playoffs for so long. The hope is that they don't have to rely on Giannis like last year, or else the Heat are gonna just do what they did last year. They're gonna build that wall, they're gonna outplay them physically, they're gonna get into them mentally, and then that's just gonna make it easy for the Heat to win. But this year, I do think it'll be different. I think that the Bucks have gotten so much better on paper. Jrue Holiday and PJ Tucker are great additions, and they have made really good impacts on this team on both sides of the floor. I think that the Heat have been just so inconsistent this year, and I just don't know if the Heat have it enough in them to not only make the series competitive, because I think they can do that, but I don't know if they're going to be enough to actually beat them again. I just don't think so. We're not in a bubble anymore, so the Heat don't have that against them, because that bubble was built for them. There's actual home court, so that's going to be a disadvantage for Miami. Giannis is going to want revenge. I have no doubt about that. So I have no doubt that he's going to play just as well, and hopefully it'll be enough, along with the other guys contributing in this Bucks team, to take care of business this time around. In my opinion, this is going to be a very close series, but I have the Bucks in 7 games. The Knicks and the Hawks. I still cannot believe I'm talking about the Knicks in the playoffs with home court advantage. There's going to be playoff basketball in New York City, in Madison Square Garden, and they have home court. They're going to have 15,000 fans. That's crazy. In 2021, of all the Knicks slander, they're here. This series is actually very hard to predict, but I think it's going to be a very fun series. You have 2 young teams with not a ton of experience, but I will say this about the Knicks. They have a coach who's had a lot of success in the NBA. He was a champion in Boston as an assistant coach. He was a coach for the Bulls, and they won, and they had a lot of playoff experience. The Knicks also have veterans who have playoff experience, Taj Gibson, Derrick Rose, to name a few. To me, this series is just going to depend on who gets hot in which game, because, you know, it's going to be dependent on if Randall's hot one game or if Trae Young is hot that game. And then also who else on those teams are going to step up, because for the Hawks, is Bogdanovich going to shoot the lights out like you expect him to? Is John Collins going to contribute? Is Clint Capella going to be a great defensive force? And then for the Knicks, is RJ Barrett going to continue to shoot as well as he has? Is Derrick Rose going to come off the bench and provide that spark like he does? To me, the Knicks are the better team defensively, and they have home court, and they have Julius Randle, who I don't see anyone on the Hawks having an answer for other than maybe John Collins. I think the series is going to be a battle, and it's going to be a lot of fun for us fans, but I have the Knicks taking this series. It's going to be a very close series. Knicks in 7. So now let's move on to the Western Conference. Let's start with the Utah Jazz and the Warriors or the Grizzlies. I'm recording this on Friday morning, so I don't know who's the 8th seed. I'm just gonna, for the sake of this video, predict that it's gonna be the Warriors. But let's be honest, no matter who wins, whether it's the Warriors or the Grizzlies, they're not gonna beat the Jazz. Let's be honest. I know people have feelings about the Jazz and whether they're actually, you know, legit title contenders, but I think those questions are going to be more valid once they get into the second round and they play teams like the Clippers or the Nuggets and stuff like that, you know? But for this series, I don't see it being an issue at all. I think they're going to take care of the Grizzlies or the Warriors pretty easily. If the Warriors are the 8th seed, I think Steph could make things interesting, you know? I think that with the way he's been playing and how incredible he's been, he can shoot the lights out and, you know, just off of that alone, steal a game. But the Jazz are just so much better, well-rounded. Steph has done so much of the work for the Warriors, especially on offense, and the Jazz don't have that issue. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell's coming back for at least the first couple games. If he is, then there's going to be some time to adjust, but I still don't think that's going to be an issue in terms of this 7-game series. So with that said, you know, regardless if it's the Warriors or the Grizzlies, the Jazz are going to win in 5. The Suns against the Lakers. This is a fascinating series that I personally am very excited for. Devin Booker is finally in the playoffs after all these years being in Phoenix and being in such a terrible environment. This has been such an incredible turnaround in his career, and it's so great that he's finally in the playoffs on a very good team, by the way. And the weird thing about this series is that the Suns have the 2nd seed, they have the home court advantage, but yet they're the underdogs. Like, all the odds, everyone has the Lakers beating them. That's fascinating to me, even though they're the 7th seed. And the thing with the Suns is that they are legit, and you cannot slack off against them. Like, the Lakers can't play like they did in that first half against Golden State. You can't do that against Phoenix. The biggest key for all of this is going to be, obviously, LeBron and AD being healthy. Hopefully they are. And for the Suns, I mean, Chris Paul's going to be the biggest part of this team, because Booker and Ayton are great players, but this is their first playoff experience. This is going to be something new for them. Playing in the playoffs is very different from what they've been doing in the regular season, and I have no doubt Booker's going to play great. He is a great player, so I think he'll do his thing in this series, but Chris Paul is going to be the answer for them when it comes down to, you know, in the end of games and whatnot, because Chris Paul has that experience. But with that said, I don't think the Suns have any answer for Anthony Davis, because I like DeAndre Ayton. I love the leap he's taken this season, but I mean, against Anthony Davis, especially if he's healthy, no one can stop him. Dario Saric can't, DeAndre Ayton can't. Anthony Davis is just going to dominate whoever it is. And then you have LeBron James, who's going to be hopefully healthy, and even if he's not 100%, LeBron James at 60% is still going to be incredibly dominant. So yeah, you know, I would love to see the Suns make a run this year, but let's be realistic. I have the Lakers winning this series. I don't think it'll be easy. It won't be a cakewalk. I think the Lakers will take care of this in 6 games. The Nuggets and the Blazers. I'm so sad that Jamal Murray's injured, because the last time that these two teams played in the playoffs, I mean, you remember that series in 2019? That 7-game series? It was incredible. There was one game that went into like, what, 4 overtimes in Portland? Like, this was an incredible playoff series. So, you know, I wish Jamal Murray was playing, but I still do think that this will be a very interesting and fun series. The Nuggets have looked great, even without Murray, and it's because of, in my opinion, their MVP, Nikola Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr. has really stepped up. He's been incredible for them. And even without Jamal Murray, I still do think that the Nuggets are a team that can make noise in the playoffs. And then on the other side, you have the Blazers, who have been up and down all year, but the one thing that's remained consistent is Damian Lillard and his play. He's been terrific all season. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes down to this series, I just see the Nuggets on defense being so much better than Portland. They have guys on the perimeter like Aaron Gordon. They have Michael Porter Jr. They have guys that can answer for Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum if needed. And Nikola Jokic has been incredibly impressive defensively too. So I see him being able to slow down Nurkic no problem. If Dame and CJ are slowed down enough, then I don't see any way Portland wins this series. I just don't see it happening. And then for Portland, I mean, do they have an answer for Michael Porter Jr.? I would argue, yeah, maybe CJ can put up a good fight, but with the way Porter Jr. has been playing, it'll be tough. And who's gonna stop Jokic? I mean, come on. I just don't see Nurkic as that kind of defender. He's not a great defender. So, you know, to me, I see this matchup between Jokic and Nurkic as, like, you know, what's the thing that Shaq says? Barbecue chicken. Jokic is gonna dominate. I just don't see it any other way. But with that all being said, I do think that this will not be a cakewalk for the Nuggets. I think that with how great Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are, you cannot count them out. So I have the Nuggets winning this series, and I think that they'll take care of it in 6 games. To wrap it up, let's go with the Clippers and the Mavericks, another rematch from last year. That was pretty interesting. Honestly though, from this series, there isn't a lot that I remember, other than I remember that beef that had with Marcus Morris and Luka Doncic. You know, the one where they called Luka a bitch-ass white boy. That was hilarious. And then of course that, you know, incredibly impressive step-back game winner that Luka hit at the buzzer in game 4. That was a very incredible moment. But let's be honest, for this series, Luka's great. He's great. No one has any questions about that. But the Mavs have no help. It's the same thing as last year. Porzingis just cannot stay healthy, and even when he is healthy and even when he is playing, he really isn't, you know, you expect him to be like the sidekick, the second option, but he really isn't doing that much. I'd argue Tim Hardaway is more of a second option than, you know, Porzingis. And obviously everyone's going to be skeptical of the Clippers because of what they did in the bubble last year, but I think that in this series, it's not going to be an issue. There's no stopping Kawhi. There's no stopping Paul George. There's no stopping playoff Rondo, by the way. Yeah, I just don't see this going any other way. The Clippers are going to take care of this series. It won't be easy. I think Luka, with just how great he is, he can will this team to, you know, make it somewhat interesting. But honestly, I have the Clippers taking this series in 5 games, and, you know, that's going to be very disappointing, and it's going to lead the Mavericks to, you know, having questions about what to do going forward with Luka. But yeah, like I said, Clippers are going to take care of this series in 5 games. Alright, that's basically it. I've covered everything in this first round. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like, and comment down below what your predictions are for the first round. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think, so yeah, we're finally here. It's the NBA playoffs starting on Saturday. I'm very excited to be watching this incredible incredible basketball. There's so many things about this year that have been so tough, you know, especially this past year and a half with the pandemic. So to have playoff basketball in arenas with fans, even if it's not packed, it's gonna be so refreshing. And we have so many incredible teams, so many incredible matchups. So, you know, regardless of what you think the season's going to end up with, I think the way we get there is going to be very fun. So that's why I'm very excited for this first round to start tomorrow. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and also turn on your notifications so that you don't miss an upload. Thank you guys as always for your continuous support on the channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.